Impro Theater and the cast and crew of this online performance would like to take this time to honor the indigenous peoples of the ancestral and unceded homelands we each inhabit, and to consider the legacy of colonization. In Los Angeles, we pay our respect to the Gabrielina Tongva peoples. Impro Theater supports the promotion of an anti-racist world, where we recognize diversity, equity, and inclusion as central to our values. We are listening, learning, and growing. We invite you to join us in taking action wherever we can to create a more just world.
Thanks for joining us for Impro Talk, everybody. I'm your host, Mike Rock, and I'm delighted to have CoRy Wyszynski back for part two, an update for 2022. For those of you who watch frequently or listen frequently, you know that we replayed last week CoRy's interview from last year, and we just want to get an update and find out how he's doing, what's going on. He is an author, an actor, an improviser, a theater technician, a digital creator, a photo alchemist, a podcaster, a poet, and he was the lighting tech wizard for Impro Theater Los Angeles's first live streaming endeavor, which was called The Portal, which was an improvised Twilight Zone shot with 3 cameras in a studio, and it was a lot of fun. And we're going to talk to CoRy about just an update on what's going on with him with his health challenges. He's got these chronic health challenges that have been plaguing him in particular over the last few years, but basically all his life. And he's going to help us with some definitions and give us an update on what's going on with him. So please welcome CoRy Wyszynski.
And the mystery T-shirt is...
Oh, we got a mystery T-shirt already. I wasn't aware of this happening, folks.
Oh, whoa. Kind of health related.
TV. It is oh, look at that. That is fantastic.
Wow.
Namaste.
What's it say?
Namaste, probably.
Namaste in bed. Oh my God. Okay, so this was a completely random shirt because I'm a sucker for anything pop culture / random. So Kid Robot ruined me years ago, and that's where it started. Namaste in bed. That's amazing. Hey, Mike Rock. Hey, hi everyone.
That one that
I just opened up
ordered
a T-shirt.
Had you ordered that and forgotten about having ordered it?
I did. So I ordered a shirt, and then it said, would you like to add a mystery bag for considerably less? You don't know what color or what shirt. And I said, yeah, absolutely. And it's something I probably would have ordered anyway, which is amazing.
Yeah. Namaste in bed.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be back, Mike.
Well, I'm glad to have an update with you. Off camera, we were talking about your considerable beard, and I was mentioning that CoRy is a guy who changes his facial hair on the regular. And right now, you have a Kenneth Branagh as Hercule Poirot and or Sam Elliott style mustache, which is formidable, I must say.
Thank you.
In the UK, they call them mustaches, plural.
Oh, nice. I like that. One for each side, kind of like Twix.
Yeah.
The left and the right.
And yours do look like Twix.
Also off camera, we talked about how we're going to stay on track, and we're already off.
Yep, it happens that fast. So about a year ago, I guess 11 months ago, you had cord release surgery. Can you give us, for people who are just catching up, can you give us a quick tethered cord explanation and then what the release means?
Absolutely. So tethered cord, which I also found can come back, which is horrifying, is can be like a small balloon knot, sometimes of cartilage, sometimes of fat. The most interesting thing about it is it locks your spine in place. So it would cause you a great deal of harm, of pain, if your head was connected normally, because then you're being pulled back. For me, though, that was the only thing that was holding my neck in place. but we had to remove that to perform the neck surgery.
Wow. Okay. And what was the next surgery?
The neck surgery was the next surgery, and that was craniocervical fusion.
Okay.
Now,
There are, I believe there are
before,
five vertebrae in your neck.
yep, look at that. You're seeing that live. That is no brace.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And the fact that I'm able to stay coherent and complete thoughts, and it's not super painful. It gets heavy because I'm not used to it, and I'm working on that with a physical therapist. But what happened was we were going to do C1 to C2 fusion, and that was going to be it. But there was like lakes or pools or quarries of veins in my neck around the cervical junction, which can pivots the skull. And he couldn't go into that. And if he would have, I probably wouldn't be having this conversation with you.
Because you would have been mad at me?
No, I would have been gone. Um, I would have been dead. I wouldn't have made it. And if I didn't have a surgeon that understood what that was, because fusions are different than what I had done.
Yeah.
And there's about 8 doctors in the world that can do the surgery that I had done.
Good Lord.
So instead he went C1 to C3 and 4. And he went from the back of the skull. So take the middle of your head. That's where I have now 2 bars going down the spine all the way to C4, and then a bracket like hinge around this part in the back of my head.
So you're sort of like a robot almost now.
Yes, very much so. And I'm only here to help humans, and I will not destroy them. Well, that was weird. I don't know why I said that.
We've heard this promise before.
But that surgery happened in February, and I had a procedure that it was medieval, to put it lightly, done before that. But that was to kind of get your measurements. They say in construction, measure twice, cut once.
I've heard that.
So we measured how far we would pivot my head, and then the doctor knew how far to go. Because everyone's different.
And so the medieval measurement process was like in some sort of contraption, or was it? Yeah.
Yeah. Take it looked like something you would find in an abattoir or a slaughterhouse, where it was drilled in.
Built into your skull, yeah.
And then this was the hanger for, like for pigs that would be hanging upside down. Instead, it's drilled into my head, and then they're slowly pulling me up by millimeters. But to do that takes 30 pounds. And because of COVID and other things that I won't get into at this time, we could only Novocaine me like they do at a dentist's office, as opposed to knocking me out, which they would have done. So I felt every last turn. Wow. Welcome to medical horror, folks.
How long did that procedure go?
That was like 45 minutes.
Wow.
So I felt it going in, and then the procedure has to end. So I felt it going out.
How did you get through it? Did you listen to music, or were they just talking to you?
No, they're talking to me the whole time. So I had them roiling by the end. And then but then it also transitioned, because then you can hear the voice changing because it's being crushed. And I was a lot worse before surgery than you saw.
Yeah, because it
was just degrading so fast.
Yeah.
And it wasn't disintegrating, it was just the weight it couldn't hold up.
Right.
The bowling ball sized head.
Yeah, well that's because you're really smart, so you have a lot of brains.
Yes.
So is it musculature that is the main issue, or is it connective tissue? What's the issue that
It's connective tissue. I have a genetic condition known as EDS or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and your collagen in your body is just it's beyond. It's not even. It's not. You can't say it's bad. It's like corrupt,
right?
and that can affect your joints. There's people that will have metallic braces on their hands for each finger because they dislocate their joints too much, and that can still happen to me. I mean, I have hypermobility, so things could fly out of whack, and that was what's happening was the four ligaments in my head, and it says it's usually due to either like a really bad viral infection can kind of trigger it, or a fall or accident can trigger it. And I had multiple, one including at a roller skating rink. I
It,
fell backwards in December, right before the everything kind of went haywire before COVID.
so you may have that fall may have aggravated a pre-existing condition, is what you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then there were two more falls or incidents before I was before EMTs came to my door.
Wow. And is Ehlers, just to be clear, is Ehlers-Danlos inherited? Is it genetic?
It's genetic. There are 13 different subtypes. We're actually in the middle of doing a DNA test to find out if I have others, because a lot of I only have one, and that subtype is actually decided without genetic testing. We don't know the genome, the genetic code that is specific to that type. But there's some that only affect ligature in the eyes. There's others that your veins will just kind of they're too stretchy. So it's really they call us zebras because everyone's different, and it's sad because a lot of doctors don't know about these conditions. EDS probably only kind of hit the forefront, I would say, in the last 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, is it typical? Is EDS typically comorbid with these other acronyms that we talked about in our previous conversation, like POT?
MECFS and POTS, yes. If you could not have you could have POTS but not have EDS, but you could not have EDS, especially with hypermobility, without having POTS, which makes sense. Your collagen, which is everything that kind of holds your joints together, your body has to work harder because those are, you know, getting stoned in their grandma's basement. They're just so relaxed, and sometimes that can tear. Sometimes it's just like taffy, and so it cause other problems. But yeah, really difficult to live with.
What's the acronym? What does POTS stand for again?
Postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome.
So it sounds like you tachycardia sounds like a heart arrhythmia situation.
Yep. It's not arrhythmia though. It's irregular sinus rhythm, which is good and bad because it's not something that's going to be so dangerous as an arrhythmia, but then it's also sometimes missed because it's just your heart goes up. Example, if I'm at 75 beats per minute and I get up too quickly just on a standing, that I could get to 140 or 150 beats per minute, and not in like a minute, in 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's like you've suddenly started running a race with no warm up or whatever.
Yeah. And then then you're like, oh, I got to sit down. Well, guess what? Sitting down you're still going to feel that. So the highest I've ever been is 160, and 165 is marathon runner's pace. And that was climbing stairs, but it wasn't climbing a ton of stairs. It was just like going down 5 steps.
Yeah. Wow. And myalgic encephalomyelitis / chronic fatigue syndrome is it typically comorbid with Ehlers-Danlos and POTS?
That I don't. POTS, yes. EDS, it seems just it that it makes sense that it would. But I was diagnosed with ME/CFS, which was just CFS at the time, when I was 8 or 9 years old. Also, after a really bad car accident, is that in correlation? Maybe.
Mm.
But there wasn't testing, and it wasn't well known that I had EDS because you're born with it.
Yeah.
I was just a super stretchy kid that could bend their fingers back. And I remember when I was talking with Lisa Fredrickson,
Los Angeles.
she said I was always worried, like, ooh, you can really stretch. Maybe he does yoga.
Wow.
Yeah.
Looking at another one, HEDS, is
That's
that the
hypermobility
hypermobility?
Ehlers-Danlos
Ehlers-Danlos, right?
or Ehlers.
SFN.
Small fiber neuropathy, which is very common with Ehlers-Danlos, and that just means I have nerve damage throughout my entire body.
Right.
But do they know why? No.
Yeah, there's no known cause of myalgic encephalomyelitis.
It's usually due to post viral illness or syndrome.
Mm.
And that's why it's actually now in the zeitgeist. It's being talked about a lot, and you're seeing it in articles now because of long COVID. After even just an asymptomatic, where you're like, oh, I didn't feel a thing. 5 months down the road, you might start having POTS like symptoms, or going out means that you have to breast the whole day because you can't get out of bed because your body is just so heavy that you just can't move.
Wow.
So a lot of people are experiencing that, and kind of now ME/CFS is getting the attention that it desperately needed. And what's nice is with that, those two communities, long COVID and ME/CFS, they are working together, and in a way, it's almost like working with a scientist that's been studying this all their lives, because the patients really know.
Yeah.
Sometimes the patients is educating the doctor,
Yeah.
which different world these days, true. But now we're starting to see, okay, a post virus, like a really bad virus, or one that's dangerous doing stuff on the inside, can lead to the body being permanently tired the rest of its life.
Wow. So the downside, of course, is that people got sick from COVID and they're dealing with it, and et cetera. The upside is that it's going to bring more attention to ME/CFS, which has been long neglected for its misunderstood status,
Especially in women. It's often back in the day, it was denounced as hysteria.
Wow. That's just crazy. CCI.
The craniocervical instability.
Right. And so you've addressed that surgically and now with physical therapy.
Mm-hmm. I think you got all of them.
TSC.
Tethered cord.
Tethered cord syndrome. Okay, right. So.
But is that all of them? There's a new one that we found out in January of this year. In April of this year. You know, my birthday month. Happy birthday, CoRy. MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome.
That
This is
sounds
one,
terrible.
yeah, this is one that's really causing problems right now. It's almost as if I am having a severe allergic reaction, but that can be caused by temperature, mold, stress, which, those are not common things. I don't think people's temperature changes much. And, stress isn't really a thing these days. It's kind of gone. I'm being facetious
Yes, you
in
are.
such a way. So yeah, I'm currently in doctor mode of the revolution, kind of what's happening, and it's like it's starting all over again, and it's really talk about exhausting.
Um, Mast cell. What can you say it again?
Yeah, mast cell activation syndrome.
Okay.
We all have mast cells, and mast cells is kind of like an inflammatory response. So you know about that
I
in
do.
your own life, but you were having it to, let's say, an appropriate response, which is that's like seasonal allergies. Okay, I have an allergic reaction because of pollen. Well, I'm having a huge reaction, but we don't know why. And it could be multiple things. And mine is accelerating my heart rate in such a way. Some people get a rash, some people get anaphylaxis. I'm getting spiked heart rate. So it's like I'm in constant fight or flight.
That's just wow. That is not a great birthday present that you were dealt.
No.
How is that being addressed at present?
Um, it's we don't know what to give it.
Okay.
So we're kind of doing like antihistamines, even in such a way where I take a pill that's an enzyme that breaks down histamine in case it's in my food. But that's the other tests that I'm getting done right now. And actually I have an appointment on the 25th of October of this year. Otherwise I would have had to wait until next year.
Are you in touch with our fellow Impro Theater Los Angeles friend Laurie Jones about
Oh
Emmy?
yes. Yes. Constantly.
Laurie is an advocate for MECFS and a campaign known as Millions Missing.
Millions missing is because a lot of us are missing from our lives.
Hmm.
So people don't know about us because we're not able to even sometimes leave our bed. We're bed bound, or as I was, couch bound.
Yeah.
'Cause I sleep on my couch, and instead of wallowing the fact that I was on my couch, turned it into a late night talk show.
Turned into a talk show from the couch. CoRy
But
Wyszynski.
Laurie's actually now the director of Emmy Action. So I'm hoping she's definitely a big part of it. That's for sure. And they actually did a protest in Washington D.C. that was really successful. And that probably most of them, if not everyone that participated in that has Emmy, are probably going to be down for about a week to 2 weeks.
Right. You mentioned that to me that when you have like a doctor's appointment or some sort of a um, procedure or anything like that, the upside is that you get to go do that thing. The downside is that you end up exhausted for several days.
We call it a crash.
Hmm.
And it's from post exertional malaise, or PEM, and that can happen both physical or mental. So if you're having a phone call and it's with a relative and it's a difficult phone call, it can be down or crashed for a couple days because it was such a difficult phone call.
Yeah.
And for me, I was passing out after driving because that's using both. And you're turning your neck so much that I was just kind of preparing for the inevitable.
Wow. I'll definitely put when we're done, I'll put some subtitles of how to get in touch with ME Action and
Yeah, awesome.
and I'd love to do. I'll have to invite Laurie on sometime to talk about further what her work. What so you have to find time. Obviously, your spirits seem good. Um,
It strikes and gutters.
yeah.
There's no fully good days. There's no fully bad days. And that's you just kind of have to improvise with what you get.
Um, do you have time to do some of your are you still writing poetry? Do you have time to do any photo collage work or that sort of thing?
Yes. I'm also disabled because I can't really work. You can't really go to a boss and say like, all right, I can take that project. Awesome. We need it in a week. I need 3 months. Like you can't do that. But I do find the time. I've actually been uh, working slash struggling, but like getting better with it. I regulate how many things I do a day, and
Yeah.
I don't do more than three. And we write it on a board, so it's like, hey, I feel like I could read. Well, I already did my three things,
Yeah.
so I have to push it aside. But yes, I actually have really exciting news. If I can break that now, I have a shop on Threadless, and there is a new collection that I've been working on with one Kate Eng. I can't say much, but there is going to be an abundance of things. And if you know Kate, she does a lot with role playing, and she's also a filmmaker and a film artisan. She does editing. She's a really great editor, and we've been kind of working together on a collection, a set, if you will, that kind of blends our worlds together.
Cool.
My health and her role playing, with like Dungeons and Dragons or RPGs.
Oh, great. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. And that we'll learn more by going to your website, I assume about that.
Yes. And I created my own website. I redid it this year. It took longer, but I can't be upset because you got to look at everything, little victories, small goals.
When you compare how your outlook and how you were doing before the cord release surgery, which is, about a year ago, to now, would you say that you're even keel? Do you feel slightly better? Have the setbacks been too much of a drag? How do you compare yourself to a year ago?
That's an excellent question. I would say that before I was the Tesseract cube or combined uh, contained energy that was working at such a chaotic level in an analytical way, so it functioned like a robot. That's a callback. Um, and but what was happening is I kind of have like crafted or made myself, I educated my mind and forced myself in such a way since college to work that way, to work in that chaotic mess. But it was contained. And what we did is we broke the shell. And the way I think is exhausting and frustrating. And it's like I'm not rerouting my brain, but I'm learning how to slowly take in that chaos because it's not going away.
Yeah, I mean, I would describe the way have witnessed your brain from reading your stuff and from improvising and et cetera. It's just like there's so many avenues. They say that with musicians and improvisers and even athletes is that they're seeing they're seeing moves ahead of that normal people wouldn't see in a chess
Yeah.
or in
Yeah.
whatever. And you're one of those people that has that genius creativity kind of a thing where you're seeing so many options at once. And I would imagine that health challenges such as what you're experiencing makes it harder for your sort of executive function to manage all that stuff
Yes.
because you're busy worrying about, you know, your health. Uh,
Yes.
uh, well, but I'm glad that you're still able to. You were telling me in our last conversation, and then I think also offline, about how a thing that used to take you a few minutes would take you weeks to complete. You know, a
Yeah.
drawing, a photo manipulation, or something like that, or a
So
t-shirt.
if it took 4 weeks, it takes 2 weeks, 1.5 weeks now before and after surgery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That sounds like progress.
it is progress. But 2 weeks is still a long time to do 3 photos.
Something that would have been, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, well, I'm glad that it feels a little like progress anyway.
No, no, it is. I would not have been able to even take the brace off.
Yeah.
I take the brace off now 5 minutes, 3 times a day. And even before, I wasn't able to lift my head off the pillow, but now I can lift my head off the pillow with no brace. That's big. It's a big deal.
How are you dealing with this? Might be too personal, so you can tell me. And
I'm an open medical journal, and you know that. Before I was an open book, but then
do you you used to drive, you used to like carpool with people, you did Uber for a minute, and or maybe just DoorDash or something like that for a minute. Um,
Postmates.
Postmates, sorry. So I don't want to fight about the delivery services, CoRy.
No, not at all. Uber bought Postmates, actually.
So that freedom is missing from your life, and
That is gone. That has been zapped by a 1950s toy laser gun. Zew.
so
Um,
are you talking to a therapist? Are you what? How do you manage the um,
the
loss
mental
of
side of it.
the loss of opportunities, the loss of freedom, that sort of thing?
Well, the life that I had to, and in some ways, grieve.
Mm.
There is tons of grief. I sold my car. My license now says personal identification as opposed to driver's license. I'm an ambulatory wheelchair user. So the mobility aid of the wheelchair is not a crutch. It's what allows me to live my life. Because if I am like going to an event, just walking and driving to getting driven to that event's now gone. I can't do it, or I don't enjoy it, or I have to leave early from it.
Yeah.
But if I'm able to use the wheelchair, I can then enjoy the event. And I'm in a reclining wheelchair, so it keeps my heart rate. That's where my heart's the happiest. I'm looking for a mental health, like a psychologist right now. There's one at my physical therapist office that has worked with Vietnam vets, so of post traumatic stress disorder. So she kind of really um, blended in well with helping people with brain and mental health and huge accidents and people that live through the PTSD of that. There's some times I'm watching a football game and the way that neck bends, I'm right back in the room where they're trying to hold my neck up.
Wow. Wow.
So I'm looking, the psychologist of our family friend, he's like 87 years old and he still talks to us, but he's in a nursing home. And he had to leave his practice. So looking that in the process, but know how important that is.
Yeah.
And sometimes just actively resting,
Yeah.
where putting in soft music, and a blackout eye mask, reclining me down to that perfect spot. And I have to do that. That is required. That is part of my daily living. It's not, oh, I feel like taking a nap. No, this is my deadline and I got to get the snap in or I'm going to shoot myself in the foot.
Yeah. So do you set a lot of alarms and things like that to remind yourself to take?
Maybe. And he takes a sip of chai tea latte that his dad made from himself.
That's nice.
Yeah, no, we have it on the board. Rest, rest. Mike Rock, um, baseball because there's 3 games, and then that's it. That's my day.
Yeah.
So what did I do before seeing you? I had a little something to eat, did my debracing, took my meds, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, mindful of your need for rest, I don't want to keep you any longer than we need to, but I'm super happy to have an update, and I'm sure a lot of other people are as well.
It is before what was happening was we talked about proprioception, which felt very Twilight Zone like. That has disappeared. It's as if there was never an issue with it. Do I still use my cane? Absolutely. I love my cane. It's my dad got me one for my birthday. It is a Joker cane.
That's a great cane.
It will crack skulls, people. It is intense. It's heavy, like it's got support.
I like how you went directly from using your cane for support to cracking skulls.
It's a Joker cane. It's literally what Dad bought.
That's what he's supposed to do, right?
It was created in reverence and also kind of like an homage to Heath Ledger's Joker. It says that right on fashionablecanes.com. Not sponsored. But yeah, I now keep the cane because I can't see where I'm going because of the brace. And there's also an 18-pound cat that can dart at any time. She's faster than she looks. Zoe, oh, I love her. But even that, like having time with her, I make sure I have time with the cat.
Yeah.
I would have never had to have done that. I was a cat sitter, kind of like Postmates when cat sitting were competing, and then cat sitting just clawed Postmates to death, which was great because that was one of the most difficult jobs because I made it difficult. I was going out at 3 o'clock in the morning. But that's the stoning hour. That's where the stoners are ordering from Taco Bell, and you just kind of get in this circle, GPS circle, where you're just set, and you know that in that area they're gonna order from that Taco Bell because they can't walk down the stairs.
Yeah, you had a nice little lucrative business there with
yeah, no, I was dominating it. I was doing really well with it. But yeah, the proprioception is gone, so I don't have that weird movement, and just to have that gone, plus internally the organs are working better, but they're working a lot better than they should in some, like the heart rate.
Yeah.
And that was probably a known issue, but because communication was very minimal, we didn't know.
Yeah. What is next medically? Is there some goal coming up?
Yes, to figure out my MCAS levels to get those down so that I can have my COVID fall booster because I haven't been able to get it because it'd be essentially giving me an EpiPen when I don't need one.
Right.
And we don't want to take that risk because at that point we'd need an ambulance. So yeah, it's strengthening the neck, I would say.
Right.
It's PTOT. And yeah, probably the next thing would have been already taken care of is a lot of times C1 and C2 in your spine because they're fused, they wear down 3 and 4 in terms of how much work they do.
Yeah.
I already have 3 and 4 done though. What? I am good to go, which is cool. But some small fiber neuropathy, sometimes small fiber nerves can be regrown. So that's another thing we'll be looking at.
Yeah, fingers crossed for that. I had I had a foot drop years ago and from some neuropathy, and it came back. It's okay. So
Wow, a foot drop just sounded like the podcasting mic down because you can't. Yeah, that's great. I love that. But yeah, amazing that they can come back or be grown back.
yeah.
Sometimes with just sugar, sometimes just sucrose injections.
Really, I did not know that.
Hmm.
Wow. Well, thank you, CoRy. I'll put on the as subtitles, I'll put your website. I'll put an Emmy action thing I'll find there.
Also, I'm now doing a newsletter. The first one was sent out last month. It went really well, so that will be a monthly thing, and it's both for health and creative updates. Yep. But it's free. It's a free newsletter, and you'll get stuff. You'll be notified about stuff before anyone else.
Nice. Well, I still love my I can't remember what it's called even, but the t-shirt that was the with frogs
Yes, redacted.
redacted from inspired by Francis Ford Coppola's the conversation.
Yes,
Um,
with Gene Hackman.
Fired. Yeah, I love that. All right, CoRy. Well, we'll stay in touch.
Yep.
And thank you for taking time out to do this. Enjoy your rest time after this. I hope it doesn't cost you too much to have done this.
Thank you, and thank you for taking all those considerations in. Really means a lot.
My pleasure, man. We'll speak to you soon.
All right.
All right. Thank you for watching and or listening. And we'll see you next time on the show.